Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of four, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey guys, Jimmy Graham here on behalf of Able Nation. What is Able Nation? Able Nation is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to enhancing safety in schools, churches, and civic groups, specifically protecting children. Well, what is safety? Safety is the state of being protected from harm, danger, risk, or injury, often achieved through preventative measures. So we provide financial assistance to enhance those protective measures for our nation's future, that is, our children. Prayerfully consider going to able-nation.org and making a one-time, or better yet, a recurring donation, because wars need to be funded. God bless each and every one of you. I love you guys, and please, please, please remember, together we can save lives. Hey everybody, welcome back to Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. We have a guest here, Jesse Boulden. Am I saying that right? You sound like Boulder, but with an N?
Yep, you got
it. Awesome. He's with Alert Academy. A friend of mine told me from Virginia, told me about this place. Checked it out online. Didn't quite wrap my head around it. It looks like kind of military-esque thing. And I don't know, like many guys in my conversations with my men's groups and all that, were like, man, where can young men go? Like, who's modeling this? Like, how do they do it right? And then I come across this and I'm looking at like, okay, you got my attention. And as I went deeper, I'm seeing scuba diving and boats and chainsaws and like all of this stuff. But when people ask me like, what landed you in the military? I said, I needed structure and discipline. That's what I needed. I needed to be challenged. I needed to like experience some hardship for something other than myself. What's that greater good? So welcome, brother. Thanks for being on. And could you tell us I think it's commanding officer, but what is your position?
That's correct. Yeah.
And tell us, introduce yourself and then introduce Alert Academy to us, please.
Yeah. So my name is Jesse. Like you said, I'm the director of the Alert Academy. Alert is an acronym. It stands for the Air, Land, Emergency Resource Team. Right. So we're a gap year program for young guys coming out of high school. So guys that graduate high school, 17 and up, and they spend 9 months here at the academy. I actually came to the academy myself when I was 18, fresh out of high school. I grew up in a military family, right? So I was kind of already geared towards that way. My dad was a career submarine officer, and so submarine commander. So I was already kind of geared that direction, thinking about the military. My dad actually encouraged me to come here first, right, and actually try this on and get grounded in my faith, right, and what I believed. And so I came here to the academy when I was 18, and I fell in love with it, and I actually never left, right? Which is not a normal course for most Alert guys, right? Normally we train them and send them. But for me, between opportunity and how God had created and shaped my life, I fell in love with the work here. So yeah, we're a 9-month program for guys coming out of high school. When the program started, we're 32 years old. It started by a guy by the name of Ron Furman. And he had a heart for young men. He saw young men come out of high school and they were lost, right? Either they didn't know what they wanted to do, or they ended up doing things that maybe didn't really fit their gifting or their calling. And he said, man, how do we take some of the good things that the military has to offer, right? Structure, discipline, teamwork, right? Camaraderie. And he says, man, how do we offer some of that from a Christian worldview, right? How do we help these young guys make that transition from boys to men? And so we put together a cadre of retired military guys or ex-military guys, and they built this thing called the Alert Academy back in 1994. And it's obviously gone through different phases and modes and models over the years to become the academy that it is today. But it's you can think of the academy as a three-pronged approach. We want to disciple guys from a Christian worldview, right? So we want to help them get grounded in what they believe. We want to give them skills. So discipleship training is the second branch, right? So discipleship training, we want to give them actual skills that are helpful to make them better men, better tools fit for the master's use. And so we want to give these guys, so both soft skills and hard skills inside what it is to be a man. And so that's where the firefighting and the diving and the swift water rescue comes in. The chainsaw technician training and high under rescue and stuff, kind of all the cool guy stuff. And then the third branch is service, right? So we want to give these guys really good certified high quality training, but it's not for them, right? It's not so that you can make a lot of money or so you can be really cool. It's so that you can give, right? You can live a self-sacrificial life. Our motto is strong to serve, right? So everything that makes it good and cool about being a man, well, it's so that you can lay your life down. It's so that you can be a man of service and go out and actually serve. So so we're a deployable resource, right? So as we train, we actually get deployed by either the government resources or local resources or other NGOs to work in disaster relief and search and rescue and in real time. So as we're training our guys, we also are preparing them for a life of service, whether that's in their time at the academy, going on body recoveries or search and rescue or wildland fire relief or whatever it is. But ultimately, to when they graduate, they go out and they serve in their communities, in their churches, in their homes, in wherever they end up. So a third of our guys will end up in the military. That's just kind of what they're geared toward, which is great. A third of our guys will end up in public service. So they become firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, police officers, and then a third of our guys will end up in any number of things. So.
That's fantastic, man. I get like super excited seeing all like on the videos on your website and then having talked to you already. Um, it's just such a blinking light on the dash with all the young men today. And I want to talk about like, what you've seen. I won't say the caliber of men. I would just say that, as people are coming in here, like I feel like I'm getting to be that graybeard that's like the kids today, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's right.
And
That's right. The grumpy old
I
man.
definitely
Yeah.
back in, I would have been the guy like the kids today. Look at this
Yeah.
guy, right? I
Yeah.
just needed to be challenged. I wasn't, nothing was demanded of me,
Yeah.
until I joined the Navy, until I pursued the SEAL teams, then onto the CIA and all that stuff. Excellence wasn't demanded. So having a space, having I am, I've got three girls and a boy. I've got 18, 16, 12, and 8, and they're just amazing. But I would even say like there's things now that are being challenged, like, oh, like if I were to say they need to be home at a certain time, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
or I'm going to move the curfew down. That's threatening. Am I a dictator and
Sure.
all this stuff? You
Yeah.
kind of roll your eyes, but you're like, this is where we're going, man. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening right
Yeah.
now? So seeing all these little lessons, I'm looking at down the road. I'm looking at, I told my daughter this recently, you're being hunted. Like your heart is good. It's going to
Yeah.
make people crazy. You're being hunted. You just need to know that, they're not
Yeah.
out with a rifle looking for you kind of thing, but it's very, very serious. So are you seeing a difference with the young men
Yeah.
coming in today? And can you talk to that?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I've obviously been with this fall will be 18 years, right? And so I've probably seen just over 1,000 guys come through our training pipeline here.
Wow.
And I'll say two things on that. One is that young men are young men, right? Every culture, every society has to deal with this problem, right? How do we get our boys to become men? I think there's less of a struggle to get women to be, daughters to be women, because I think they see it in real time, right? They see it in the home. They see it now. Not that there isn't a struggle there. I think in today's culture,
Yeah.
it's being threatened in all sorts of ways. But every society has to answer that question. How do we get our boys to be young, your boys to be men? And different cultures throughout history have had different, ways to do that and pipelines and catalysts. And so in some ways, young men are young men, right? We're all kind of knuckleheads growing up. We're all kind of foolish, right? We're all kind of wild and restless and we all need the same thing. We need exactly what you're talking about. We all
Yeah.
need discipline and structure. It's really good for young men. We all need to be pushed too, right? And so, one of the things we say here is that responsibility breeds maturity. And so, young men need responsibility, right? They need to be pushed. They need to be pressured. The thing that young men don't need is they don't need us to chastise them, right? They don't need us to be like, you suck, and I can't believe that. No, that's not really what they need.
Right.
They need what we say high expectations, and then high hope that they can meet those expectations, right? So, and I think that's a universal principle for young men. High expectations and then high hope that they can actually meet those expectations. So in 18 years of doing this, that's young men, right? They just are what they are. On the flip side, as these guys come out of a culture that is way more me-centric and isolated and lonely and addicted to technology, there is a subtle shift we've seen in the mentality. One of the things we've seen is that these guys are way more likely to share opinions. And I think that comes from a life on social media where when you can say whatever you want, whenever you want, and that caught us off guard initially because we were like, I don't think I would have ever said that to my instructor when I was 18. And these guys will just say it, right? And you're like, whoa, right? Like, look at the moxie on this kid. Like, where did this come from? So that's been one of the things we've had to address, right? Is helping these guys learn that, man, before you get to sit at the table, you got to put some time in, right? You got to earn some
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
You got to earn some wisdom, and that just takes time. And so helping these guys be patient, the idea of like instant gratification, that's something else these guys are really, and again, I'm not blaming them. That's the world they're growing up in. So whether it's you click a button and you get your Amazon package, right? Or you instant scroll on YouTube, you get that, that dopamine buzz every 30 seconds. Helping these guys think about, delayed gratification, right? That's a big lesson. We have to kind of
Yes.
untrain their brains in that. Helping these guys understand, some of those self-control mechanisms that are just, there's a focus deficit, I'll call it, right? Where some of these guys can't focus for 30 or 40 seconds, right? And you're like, oh, listen, like, we're doing a group circle here, right? You got to listen to the instructions that are given you, and these guys are distracted because they're looking for the next hit, they're looking for the next buzz. And so some of those things we've found that the attention deficit, right, the focus deficit we've seen, their ability to just kind of say whatever's on their brain, not wanting to spend time. My dad would call it time on the pond, right? You got to spend a lot of time on the pond, right, before you get to be the commanding officer of the boat. So helping the guys learn some of those things really has been a struggle. And you and I talked about this before, but you walk into your local Walmart and you're going to know that our young men are in trouble, right? Young men are struggling. They haven't been given the tools, they haven't been given the high expectations, they haven't been pushed or pressured to be the kind of men that the world really needs them to be. Now, the world has told them the
Yeah.
opposite. The world has said, we don't want that, we don't like that, and we don't need that, which is all a lie, right? They don't realize how much they're going to need them to be at their best. And so we tell our guys to say, man, the world might be telling you that they don't need you or want you, and it's just not true. They may say that, but the world needs you at your best, right? Your church needs you at your best. Your family needs you at your best. And this is what it looks like. We help paint a picture of what that's going to look like, right? Men of integrity, men of strength, right? Men of honor, men of camaraderie. And so those are some of the things that we've had to kind of recalibrate a little bit in our training and in our language and in our interactions with our guys. The mentorship of the guys is helping them get over some of those things that they've inherited. I feel
Yeah, yeah,
sorry for
that's right.
some of them, right? I say, man, if I had a cell phone in my pocket from when I was 7 years old, I'd be in trouble too.
Right.
So that's the culture they've inherited.
That's such a validation on why it's that important. I mean, like as you're seeing this society crumble. I was just on a men's group call just before this, and this came up. When we're talking about, um, it's like, and it took SEAL training for me to really examine this. Like, it's easier to keep up than to catch up. It's like if
Sure.
you fall
Yeah.
behind, it starts
Ooh, yeah.
snowballing without those fundamental things. And this was, I would say, in a long swim or a soft sand run, I just fell back a little bit and then a little bit. And now it's going to take superhuman strength to get back to even passing. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like
Right. Oh
not to the
yeah.
front, not to win, to keep up. Like
Just to
these
just
are
to
the
stay.
professional
Yeah.
athletes, and it just took slipping here, here, here. But to have somebody say that out loud, when we mentioned that quote from Frederick Douglass, it's easier to raise strong children than to repair
Hmm.
broken men. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's easy. It's never been easy, but it's easier to do it now than after all the shame and guilt, after a lifetime of regret.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that there's a foundation of saying, this is who you are. This is whose you are. Now let's get to work, right? And that there's this
Yeah.
integrity, which means a steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. And that code is the word of God. Steadfast means steadfast, right? And let
Yeah.
me
Oh
show
yeah.
you. So I love that. And where do you get your mentors? Because I think that's huge. I was talking about in this earlier call about the role players. Like the role players, when you do scenario training, they are so important because if their timing's off, the test is off. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like if
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
if they come
Yeah.
out late or show the gun and do all that stuff, that guy didn't get the same test as the last student, and we're going for uniformity. So if those guys are off, it kind of falls apart, like, well,
Yeah.
so and so, and I'm just making this up, but in instructor so and so, or I don't know what you call them, drill instructor
Yeah.
so and so, I saw him doing this off to the side. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
dang it.
Yep.
So there's a
Yep.
lot of responsibility that goes
Yeah.
into those broken men. How do they get healthy enough to meet my son? And
Yeah.
once they meet my son, there's rules. And once they break the rules, they don't know my son anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and the idea that the training's got to be consistent, right, and it's got to be the same all the way around. Otherwise, you
Yes,
you lose the opportunity, right?
that's right.
One of the things we talk about is the guy's time at the academy is kind of like the blips on a heart monitor. it's real fast, right? I mean, it is
Yeah.
here and they're gone. And so making sure that we are incredibly intentional with the time that we have, right? So one of the things we have, kind of guiding us is what we call our ethos, right? Our core values. And I'll just run through those really quick, right? And those
Please,
are
please.
the gospel transforms a man. And so we make sure that everything we do here is saturated in the gospel of Jesus Christ, because we can conform guys, right? You can cut your hair and put your uniform. Well, anybody can do that. But what we're really going for is gospel transformation, right? And so we're making sure every platform and every conversation and every counseling session and every conversation is going to come back to some way, shape, or form that discipleship, right? The gospel of Jesus Christ. Number two, we believe that discipline strengthens a man, right? And so we say, okay, why do we have all these rules and regulations? Well, it's good for you, right? This discipline of getting up early and staying up late and carrying the ruck and hiking through the night, and on people's worst day, we're showing up with our best. Is because that's actually good for you. It doesn't feel good, right? It feels really, really, difficult, but it's actually good because it strengthens you. So discipline strengthens a man. We believe that number three, hardship matures a man. And so we make the training intentionally difficult, right? One of the things we at the end of boot camp, the guys do a 24-hour, 56-mile endurance hike, right? So we start at 6 in the morning and we hike till 6 the next morning. That's intentionally difficult, right? And it hurts, right? And you're like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah.
Well, that's because this is good for you. This actually is going to mature you. It's going to help bring things up to the surface that, whether it's, anger or frustration or whatever, and then we can deal with those things, right? Who's the real you? Hardship is going to betray or reveal who you really are, right? So that matures a man. Number four is camaraderie sharpens a man. And so
Yeah.
nothing we're
So
going to do is in isolation, right? We're doing this as a team, as a unit. In fact, you can't pass by yourself, right? You're like, if any one of us tried to say, I'm going to go hike a 24-hour hike by myself, none of us would probably be able to make it. But we're going to, like, there's no way, guys. None of you would do this voluntarily. But as a unit, you're going to make this hike, right? Or you're going to pass this inspection. And it's all like, oh, yeah, you might have had your uniform in line, but your buddy next to you didn't. And so now you both fail, right? And they go, well, that's not fair. I'm like, well, that's kind of the point,
no.
because we want you to learn how to do
Right.
it, right? Yeah, life isn't fair, right? And so how do you help him with his uniform? Because camaraderie sharpens a man, right? So no man's an island. Number five is training equips a man. And so we want to give these guys real, actual skills that are useful and helpful, right? Soft skills and hard skills, people skills and technical skills, because we want them, fit for the master's use, so that wherever they end up in life, and it goes sideways, they're not I think the kids call it an NPC, a non-playable character, right? Where they're just in the corner going, I don't know what to do, right? No, we want them showing up to where they step in and go, hey, I'm here to help, right? Whether it's a wreck on the side of the road, or they ask for is there a doctor on the plane, right? And our guy goes, well, I'm an EMT. I'll hit the button. Like I'm gonna step in and help. I'm not gonna avoid the danger. I'm not gonna avoid the crisis, because I've been trained, right? So training equips a man. And then number six is service focuses a man. And so
Yes.
the fact that, we say that boys take and men give, right? So, boys, they just take. They're here to take, me, me, me. Boys are here to give. You're here to sacrifice. You're here to give give your strength away, give your power away, give your skills away. And so that's the framework that all of our training is incorporated into, kind of the grid. And so when it comes to like our leaders and our mentors, obviously that's actually why I've stayed. I came to Alert for the excitement, right? I came to Alert for the adventure, right? And I wanted to go on deployment. I wanted to do all these cool things and be a firefighter and be a diver, all of which I did, right? All of which I got, all of
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I still do. But that's not why I stayed. I stayed because of the men that I met here. And the men that I met here, I watched them and I said, I don't know what that is, but I want more of that, right? Like I was like, I don't know how you
Yes.
got this way. But I'm going to put myself in close relationship with you and spend time with your family and hang out with you. Because when I'm, 35 or 45 or 55, I want to be more like that. And so as we think about
Wow. Wow. That's
the
so good.
yeah, the guys that we bring in, it's guys that are obviously, passionate about Jesus, guys that are, self-controlled and disciplined, guys that are other people focused. And it's a little bit like, as we think about our instructors and trainers, we kind of take the framework of, what does the Bible talk about elders and deacons in the church, right? What kind of men are they first? Well, we look to their home lives. right? And we say, what kind of home life do you have? Are you leading your wife well? Are you leading yourself well? Are you leading your children well? And if those things are going well, then most likely there's going to be a correlation to leading other spaces well. And we can teach you the hard skills. What about these soft skills? What about these people skills? What about the love for the men
Amen.
under you? So that's what, and then, obviously the program's structured where when the young guys graduate, they can come back and be team leaders or squad leaders or unit leaders, and they can actually fill up into, which is what happened to me. I was kind of invited into these lower ranks, and mentored along the way. And one of the things that we have to do with our young guys is take a risk, right? We take a chance on some of these guys in the same way people took a chance on me, right? And they
That's
said,
right. Yeah.
I'm going to take a risk on you, and I'm going to pour into you, and I'm going to put you in this leadership position, and there's going to be some risk here, and if you mess up, there are consequences, right? Like, there's men depending on you now, and as people took a chance on me, high expectations but high hope. I was able to grow through that responsibility. And so we take the young guys, we mentor them, and we give a little more responsibility. And some of the men, rise to the occasion. Now, some of them don't, right? We don't have a
Sure.
100% success rate, as in some of these guys don't love what, they don't rise to the
It's not
challenge,
magic.
right? Yeah, it's not magic, right? And we tell them, we say, guys, we can't undo the last 18 years of your lives in 9 weeks,
That's
right? Or
right.
9 months. Like, you got to want this. And if you want it, we'll work with you all day long, right? We will
Yeah.
not give up on
Amen.
you. But if you don't want it, we can't make you want it, right? We can't change that transformation. That's going to have to be a God thing. It's going to have to be a you thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of the frame and great. So as we think about like what kind of instructors and trainers and mentors we get here, man, it's those 6 things. If those 6 things are true in your life, then we want you part of the team. And we want you pouring into these 17, 18-year-olds so that they
You
become
mind you
those
mind
kinds
reading
of
those
men.
again? You mind reading
Yeah,
that
yeah,
list
yeah,
again?
yeah. Yep. So it's the gospel, discipline, hardship, camaraderie, training, and service.
That's awesome. I mean, I was so pleased to find something like this because I think a lot of people would, because I just know so many men now more than I've ever known, like, from anywhere I've lived and done. And I mean, you gradually collect more, I call it relationships, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
here where I live. I'm just kind of plugged into all this. And we have these conversations constantly. And the solution is something like this. Like, where would one go to learn this? And I'm not just talking about the young men, but the older men,
Yeah,
and I'll talk about some of the stuff as you are, and then it'll come up to me afterwards, like, how do I learn this? Like, I've never been taught how to talk to a man like you talk to a man, to look somebody in the eye and say, you speak to me respectfully or not at all. Do you understand me?
yeah,
It's very uncomfortable talk, but it is man talk. Like, you don't talk at me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like,
right.
I'll sit here and listen to you. Or I've told people, that have gotten thrown my name around town and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And they get a little gung ho. And I say, I'll take time for your growth. I don't have time to clean up your messes. So you need to
Sure.
think about the, like all that
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
And
it's
people are
good.
so blown away if you're the first person that's ever held a 60-year-old man accountable.
Yeah,
For a minute, you're going to look like a jerk, right? Because so many
yeah,
men didn't do their job. So I
yeah,
think that's so attractive in that getting a bunch of men, and because my mind's going like, how do I support this more? How do I, you know, where would people need to know this?
yeah.
We need young men that have that structure. And at first I was like, is this come like a replacement for the military? And then you said, well, a third of our people go into military. And I was just on a podcast with a buddy of mine that I went to Buds with named David
Okay.
Rutherford. And we were reliving Buds days. And I remember getting there and I'm like, how are there men here?
Yeah.
Like, and why am I not one of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
They seemed ahead of me in maturity. And it took something. And maybe it was the academy, and maybe it was their dad and their uncle, and maybe. But this sounds like a thing that says, hey, if you're not sure about the military or yet,
yeah,
love the gap year, especially after Charlie Kirk. It's like, I'm not super excited about, paying a bunch of money to have a university undo everything I've tried to do for 18 years.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just not.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's what the majority has become. And I love Jordan Peterson's work on all that stuff about returning the favor and creating different places where actually young men can grow to be dangerous but under self-control in a fashion that it should be attractive. Like kingdom work should be the most attractive thing out there. And
Yeah.
it should be
Amen.
fulfilling from within. And you're like, I can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
So are you guys connected? When I talk about actual doers, there's talkers and doers. You guys are obviously doers, but where do you grow doers? And are you connected to people like when you say deployable? A lot of men right now that I know are finding purpose in like Samaritan's Purse, and
Sure.
they're
Yeah.
deploying,
Yep.
and they're like, but then they get there like, I don't really know what to do,
Yeah.
but I can carry heavy stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're
Yeah.
not bringing skills, and this even checks that box. So, do you have relationships with?
So
What does a deployable look like?
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of two branches. One is the governmental branch, right? And so that's for whether it's local governments, right, or state governments, right, or even internet, national governments. We've stood up for, when Space Shuttle Columbia happened, right, and we plugged into that for search and rescue, or not rescue, but search and recovery of all those pieces, right? This was many years ago when Katrina happened, right? We got stood up by right, local resources and went down there and worked in part of the incident command system, right? We plugged right into right, the headquarters, and we're working with sheriff departments and fire departments.
Wow.
And so last year when Kirk County happened, right, all those floods down in South Texas, we got stood up by a local sheriff's department. They deployed us, right? And so one of the rules of thumb is that you never self-deploy. You try not to self-deploy because you can make it worse, right? And so
Right.
sometimes we will reach out and say, hey, just so you know, we're here. Let us know. We got the tools, the guys, the skills, certifications. And so Hurricane Harvey, right, when that hit Houston and all those things, right? So that is a way we deploy. So just in the last, actually over the week of 4th of July, just 2 weeks ago or whatever, we went on two different evidence and body recoveries, right? Sheriff Department, gave me a call on 4th of July and said, hey, we have a drowning victim. I need your
Oh
dive team,
no.
right? So I called up my dive
Wow.
team, and we, spun up and sent 10 guys out there, and we found him, right? So that's one branch of deployment, right? Where, whether it's as simple as the sheriff or the mayor to the governor of a state, will deploy us that way to attach to an incident command system, right, in the OC. The other way is what you were talking about, and that's the NGO route. And so we actually have a very personal relationship with, we've deployed with, Operation Blessing before, Mercy ships, and then Samaritan's Purse is kind of the big one. And so we've actually got a very close knit relationship with them to where, they call us the Boys in Blue, right? And when they're struggling to find volunteers, or they're struggling to finish out a site, they'll actually give us a call and say, hey, can you send a team? Can you send your guys? Because we need manpower. And one of the beautiful things is that they have, we like to say, I say this tongue in cheek, they have all the money and we have all the men, right? And so
Yeah.
they've got these, massive, caches of tools and supplies and food and all the logistics figured out. And we've got the guys, right? We have the manpower, we have the skills, the chainsaw training. So our guys are deployed right now with Samaritan's Purse. I think it's Louisiana. We just sent a team out on Sunday, right? And they'll be there for a
Wow.
week, and they're helping wrap up one of their deployments right now. So I've actually been all over the country with SP, New York, California, Oklahoma, Kansas, all over the place on different deployments, helping them either start up deployments or wrap up deployments to finish off. So yeah, that's our big deployment connection is from the NGO standpoint is with Samaritan's Purse.
So you mentioned tools. So I envision tools and equipment, all that kind of stuff. Do you guys have that stuff? Because I think that's so attractive even in any community, right? You've
Yeah.
got all these, it's just almost like you got chocolate, my peanut butter, you got peanut butter, my chocolate, right? Now you
Yeah.
got
Yep.
Reese's. Is
Yep.
you've got a bunch of men that are looking for a purpose and they're doing noble things. They're raising a family, they're going to work, they're doing this thing, but they're just dying inside. They're like, I'm an action guy. At
Yeah.
heart, I'm all about adventure and this ain't it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having
Yeah.
something where they could be more well-rounded, where they can step into not only surviving, but having life and living it to the full. Like the John
Yeah.
10:10, it's like,
Thriving.
man, I'm not
Yeah.
just here to just get by.
Yeah.
How am I adding value to other people? So to be able to plug that in, is it okay? Let me back up. I'm all over the place. Is it compensated? Is it all volunteers? Do you
Yeah.
compensate people to go take a month out of their life to go help others? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. So it all depends on where you are in the pipeline, right? So obviously the deployment side of our training is built into the calendar, right? So we actually create space when the guys are in the pipeline to make sure we can deploy.
Yeah.
And then once they graduate, they become part of what we call the Eagle Response Unit. And they kind of we have this, global connection. We have almost 3,000 alumni out there, right? So we have emails and, signal chats and whatever. And when we deploy, right? We'll say, hey guys, we're deploying to this county or to this state or to this region. If you want to attach yourself to our deployment team, you can do that, right? And so other alert guys, alumni will actually deploy that way with us. And we bring
Yeah.
all our own gear. We have our own deployment trailers, our own vans, our own chainsaws, right? If it's local enough, we'll actually take a skid steer to move, trees and stuff if we have to. Um, and so, yeah, so if guys are coming that way, right? If guys want to deploy with us, our alumni, and even alumni will come and they'll bring their dad with them, right? Or they'll bring their brothers with them, and we'll be able to plug them into our deployment teams depending on what we're doing, right? And so when I went to California, this was years ago, but I did wildfire relief with Samaritan's Purse years ago. I took 5 guys from here and we met 5 alumni out there and they plugged into our team out there and we worked for 2 weeks, closed up that work site and came back. So it all depends on where we're going and what we're doing. But obviously, we'll feed them, we'll house them, we'll compensate them that way. We are a 501c3, right? So we're a nonprofit organization. We do survive off of donations, right? And so our student body does pay for their training, but that only covers 2/3 of our expenses. The rest is all by donations, right? And God's been very gracious to us to provide those donations, and we're grateful for the ability to deploy that way. And so obviously when we go with SP, right, they provide all the, the food and the lodging and all that stuff. When we self-deploy other places, then it is up to our donors to help support that function.
Man, that's money well spent. Is it just in Texas? Because now, well, the way my mind works, I'm like, there's all these needs.
Oh,
You've got
yeah.
need, then you've got men that need purpose, then you have some kind of structure. And I can imagine being the guy asking for help, and you're like, "Hey, we need help," and then a guy shows up, and he's like a professional at splitting his forehead in two with a chainsaw, and you're like, "Dude, what? Go
You're
stack
useless.
wood,
Yeah,
man!"
yeah,
Like you're kind of
yeah.
useless, right? So to show up with actually, some skills and some documentation saying that there's some accreditation or some
Yeah,
certificates, and saying, "Hey, man, this is kind of what I got going on. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but I do know how to run all this stuff, and I got
yeah,
10 chainsaws or something." Like, oh my goodness, where'd you come from? And the amount of dignity that's returned back to him and his crew. It's like,
yeah,
hey man, for such a time as this, it's like you don't have to do it, but if you don't, God will use somebody else, and you're going to miss honor. Glory goes to
yeah.
God, but you do get some of this. This is the way it's
Sure.
built, and it's so attractive and to men and missing. Um, Man, I can talk about this all day. So
Yeah.
let's back up a second, because as you're creating these young doers, what would it I like just the practical visualization of I show up, it's my first day, I got a full
Yeah.
head of hair. What does my kind of life look like? Can you walk me through a day to day, not every day,
Sure.
but what does it
Yeah.
look like as
Yeah.
I work through the process? What would I
Yep.
expect as that young man wide-eyed going,
Yeah.
Dad
What
made me come.
what am I getting? Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
And as an alumnus of the organization, right? I love to talk about this because I experienced it, right? I went through it
sure.
myself. And for guys like me, I actually loved it, right? I mean, and I actually liked going through the first phase, which was the boot camp phase, and it wasn't all fun, right? But I actually was like, oh yeah, this is what I like. I like getting up early and staying up late and getting beat and going on, scenarios and stuff. So the program's cut into 3 different phases. And so first phase is the basic training phase, right? Boot camp phase. So that's 9 weeks long. And you can think of it kind of like a military style boot camp, right? So the guys show up. We put them through in processing first, right? So it's kind of 3 or 4 days, kind of like MEPS, I guess, where you
Mhm.
kind of slow roll them into training. And then that Monday when they start is receiving night, right? And that's where they meet their cadre and their instructors, and you cut their hair and you put them in uniform and you take all their civilian stuff away. You take their watch, their cell phone, right? Which is a big ask for some of these guys, right? They don't get their cell phone that first phase, no cell phones, to kind of get them, detox off of that. And no sugar, at least initially, right? They can get their pogey or their treats later, but they got to get through that phase. And so it's a 9 week, military style, up early, staying up late, PT every day, 6 days a week, inspections every morning, uniform inspection. And this is where everybody gets the basic level of training, right? So that's where you get your basic first aid training. That's where you get your basic rope rescue training, your basic search and rescue training, land search and rescue training. You get your land navigation training. so that we're all cross-trained in all those things. And there's obviously a lot of, teamwork exercises and, drill and ceremony and uniform inspection, attention to detail, and then all these ruck marches we do, right? There's a 3-hour ruck march and a 6-hour, a 12-hour, and then the big 24-hour at the end of training there. And then at the very end of training, there's this big 3-day event you do called the Basic Responder Challenge. And once you qualify and pass all those tests, then you get out of boot camp, right? And you become a responder. That's phase one. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done, right? And it's not a weekend, right? It's not a week. It's 9 weeks of, just, blood and guts, well, to your point though, it forges men in a special way, right? You're talking to the guy you went through buds with. The guys I went through basic training with are still my best friends to this day. 18 years later, my dad talks about the guys he went through the academy with, the Naval Academy, are the guys he's the closest with, because there's something about suffering with other men, these shared experiences, right? We cried together, we bled together, we sweat together, and we're best friends, right? 18 years later, we're still have that camaraderie. So that's first phase. Second phase is we all go through it together. And so again, it's kind of cross training. And that's where you build on first phase. So that's where you do your advanced high angle rescue. You get a week of high angle rescue. You get 2 weeks of diving. And so you get open water and then search and recovery diving so that you can go out and do body recoveries or weapon recoveries or car recoveries. So now you're a deployable resource. That's where you get a week of chainsaw technician training. So again, you can deploy. We will deploy for a week or two in there. That's where you get some collapsed structure rescue. You get a week of firefighting in there, right? So to kind of test the water to see what you like and don't like. You kind of get a taste of all the third phases so that you can kind of figure out, what do I want to specialize in? And so we all get cross-trained in those things in second phase. You kind of try out all this training, you get certifications. And then third phase is where you break off and you decide what you want to specialize in. It's kind of like your MOS.
And second phase is how long? I'm sorry.
Second phase is also 9 weeks. Yeah.
9 weeks.
So
Also,
first phase is 9 weeks. Second phase is 9 weeks. And then once you get out of second phase, and I like to say that second phase was the most fun I ever had at Alert. Right. It was just, first phase was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Second phase was the most fun I ever had. Because it's something different every week, right? It's firefighting for a week, and it's diving for a week, and it's high rescue for a week, and it's collapse structure for a week, and deployment. You go on deployment, you're actually doing this stuff, and so it's a lot of fun. And then you have third phase, and that's where you break off, right? And that's where and I'll just run through these really quick here because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But that's where you can do aviation training, right? So we have our own hangar, our own planes. And you can get certified all the way up through commercial pilot's license, double CFI, if that's what you want to do. We have basic training leadership. And so you actually go back into boot camp and you become a squad leader, a drill instructor. We have a construction phase. So if you're more geared towards working with your hands and you want to be a welder or a drywaller, and all these are 12 weeks long. So these are 12 weeks of training to graduate up third phase. And so construction phase, to where you can, think about the trades. You kind of get a week of everything, a week of drywall, a week of electrical, a week of welding, a week of, pouring concrete. Then we have advanced dive training. And so that's where you can get your master diver and your advanced dive certifications. And so that's 12 weeks long. We have an emergency medical technician training. That's what I did for my third phase. And so that's an EMTB certification. And all these are national certifications, right? So guys come from all 50 states and all over the world, right? We get guys from Canada and Mexico and South Korea and Australia and England, all over the place. And these certifications are good, those places. And so EMTB is 12 weeks. We have a leadership and communications third phase training. And so that's for guys that are thinking they want to go into management or leadership. And so a lot of, so it's, basics of public speaking and basic, they read leadership books and write papers and they take a writing course. And we're thinking about, man, how do I be a better leader within whether it's the business world, the leadership world. We go to Washington, D.C. during that class for a week to talk about, ethics and civic leadership and those things. So that's 12 weeks. Then we have a missionary training pipeline. So if guys are more geared towards missions, they want to go overseas and work in that field of ministry. So we have a missions course. We have a technical rescue course. And so that builds on top of the rescue you've already gotten. So that's trench rescue, collapsed structure rescue, advanced high angle rescue technician, swift water rescue, confined space rescue. So that's our rescue phase. And then we have a fire academy, right? So if guys want to go through fire academy and get their IFSAC seals or firefighter 1 and 2, hazmat operations and awareness. Again, that's one of the things I did was my firefighter. And so, yeah, those are our third phases. So first phase, we all go through 9 weeks. Second phase, we all go through, try everything out. That's 9 weeks. And then third phase is 12 weeks. And then you graduate. Now you can come back for more, right? And guys will stack third phases. They'll do 2 or 3 or 4 and be here for several years. That's totally fine. To graduate and become part of the Eagle Response Unit, you do those 3 phases back to back. And you can mix and match, right? Because some guys go to basic, go home for 6 months, come back for second phase. So they got to make money or things. And you don't have to graduate either. Obviously, our desire is that guys would graduate.
Yeah.
But if you just got time for boot camp, you can come to boot camp. If you got just have time and money to come to 1 and 2 phases, that's totally fine. Or if you want to do a bunch of the phases, right? Guys will stay here for years taking training or being in leadership and things. That's also totally fine. So that's the program in a nutshell. So it's all obviously structured. It's all intense. It's all fast paced. But that's on purpose, right? That's by design.
Yeah.
Because it's good for guys to be in that environment.
Yeah. I love the immersion part of it. Like if you're trying to work through the community college and get a certificate, you're competing with the world every day for your attention and study and all that stuff. I like to just, if I can be in a position where I'm immersed in it, I'm focused on it. Everything I do, I try to do with people. Like there's the disc personalities, and I'm an I, and one of the things that my new CEO guy was telling me is like, it's doing something alone is one thing, but then like his daughter wouldn't clean her room, but if he sat on the bed and just did work, he's just in her presence and she can do it. I'm very much like
sure,
that.
yeah,
clean out the garage.
Yeah.
Hey, Christian, like my son, can you help me? Even if he was standing there, if he's standing there doing nothing, it's just something better about the people because that's the way I'm wired. By the grace of God, I'm wired that way. So 100%. I need a team. I need people with me, and I absolutely love it. So this is super exciting. Who are you looking for? What's the cutoff, young and old?
Yeah.
And where do most of your folks come from?
Yeah. So young is 17, right? So as long as you have finished high school, or people actually use us as a high school, last year of high school, right? Some guys finish early. And so mom and dad say, hey, at 17, I want you to go to this academy and do this for 9 months or whatever. You can also use us as that last year of high school. Totally fine. Very cool. As long as you're 17, that's the only thing we really care about. You also don't even have to be a Christian, right? Obviously, we get primarily Christian guys, and we're unashamedly, unabashedly Christian, right? We're non-denominational, right? We believe in the very core doctrines, right, that the churches believe for 2,000 years. And that's just the way it's, the way we are. Our statement of faith is online. You can look that up. But we're non-denominational, right? So we're not geared towards any specific denomination. And we get guys from, all over the map as far as denominations go. But you don't obviously don't have to be a Christian. Then as far as cutoff goes, as long as you're not married, there really isn't a cutoff. The oldest I've seen guys come through is 36. And so as long as you're not married, man, and you can do it physically, right? And obviously it was hard on those 36-year-olds, right? I mean, they got beat up, but they did it. And, and they were some of the best guys I saw come through because of their maturity and their life experience. And they just came and said, you know what? I want to test myself. I want to try myself. I want to be part of this brotherhood of like-minded men. I want this community. And that's one of the things that I tell guys. There were 3 things that I got out of Alert that I say, I mean, there were more than that, right? But the 3 big things that I got out of my time at the academy were the intangibles, right? That you can't put a price on. I can go to the community college and become a firefighter, right? I didn't need to come here for that. But the things that I got were, number one, crazy awesome experiences, where by the time I was 19, I'd been all over the country, all over the world, done all these incredible things, all these certifications, right? By 19, right? I had more experience than my buddies who went off to college, right? I came home and, we came home, it was, Christmas break or whatever. And what'd you do for your break, right? Or what'd you do over the last year of your life, right? And like, well, whatever. And I'm sitting there going, well, I've done all of these things in 9 months, right? This is what I accomplished, right? Because it's so fast paced and it's just that immersion, right? You're just getting way more done than your average person. And so I got crazy awesome experiences, which you can't put a price on. And my dad says, that they're going to do things to you and for you that even as a dad, I couldn't have done for you, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it would
Yeah.
be wrong for my dad to kick open my door and, scream in my face, right? And get out of bed, right? That doesn't work. It's the wrong relationship. But here at
Right.
Alert, the drill instructors can do that,
You can
right?
do
They can flip on the alert and,
it.
flip on the light and say, get out of bed,
Bang in
right?
the
And,
trash can.
like,
Yeah.
oh my, exactly. They can do that, right? Because that's the mentality. That's the relationship you have with the instructors. And it's good. It's good for you, right? So crazy awesome experiences, friendships, right? Brotherhood. I got
Yeah.
in a world that's isolated, especially men, right, that don't have close relationships. I am blessed to have a tremendous amount of close male relationships because of my time at Alert. Men that are older than me, men that are younger than me. There's actually a guy who goes to my church. He's from Unit 1, right? So he was the original unit back in 1994.
Wow.
And we have a connection because we're Alert guys, right? And we have a special bond because he knows what I went through, and even though he's in his 50s, I'm in my 30s, we have a connection, right? And so that was one of the things I didn't expect to get, but I got here was close-knit friendships, brotherhood, community, right?
Hmm.
That you can't put a price on, right? So that's number two. And then perspective was number three. I came into Alert pretty selfish, pretty self-centered, self-focused, as most young men are, right? That's just
Yeah.
part for the course. And I like to say this, I came in like this, and Alert helped me pick my head up and look at the world out there and say, life's not about me.
So important.
Life's about
Yeah.
other people and sacrificing my time and my energy and my money and my resources in the service of other people. And that kind of perspective shift, you can't put a price on. And so for no other reason, right? I came for the training, I came for the tangibles, which I got, but I stayed for the intangibles. Crazy awesome
Yeah.
experiences, a brotherhood, friendships, and then a perspective shift.
And that's such a critical investment. Meaning, when I got there, just troubled background. Like I was
Yeah.
mad. I had a chip on my shoulder through high school and all that stuff. And I show up and there's this brotherhood of men that I didn't know yet would be my brotherhood. It was just a bunch of other guys, and there were like, how is he so much more mature than me?
Yeah.
Because he had a structure, and I don't know what that structure is, but I know the instructors saw it. I know the instructors saw it. And I know that later, after BUDS, you go on to airborne school. Back in my day, you went to airborne
Yeah.
school. So you go to airborne school. It's a little different now. But I remember now we were those people, and there was all these, I'll call them kids. Now they might be older than me, but they're basically children. And the
Yeah.
instructors would come over and be like, "Hey, come here." Like they'd put on a drill instructor thing, and you're like, "Oh, that's just, a Sergeant Airborne kind of guy." Then he'd be like, "Come here a second." And we'd go around the corner and be like, "Hey guys, help me out. I'm trying to do a thing here." You're like, "Oh, you're like a dude.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry."
Yeah.
But it was honoring that he had that conversation with me. It's like, you guys are on
Yeah.
the next level, and I got to get these guys through a 3 mile run. And for some of them, this is going to be devastating. So please
Right.
don't
Gonna
run
kill him.
backwards. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like,
That's right. Yeah. Don't
so,
mock him. Yeah.
and then everywhere you went, because of the credibility and because you invested more, you were just kind of on a different tier. Not like, look at me,
Yeah.
look at me, but it was like, hey, this is like a man showed up, and I'm gonna tap into this man to help me with these other folks, and that
Yeah.
that kind of never stops. Now, on the other side of that, it can be devastating because people wear that as an identity, and then
Sure.
they go hurt their community, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's it. I just met a
Yeah.
SEAL. That's it. That's all I
That's
get
the
right here,
yeah. That's
So my question is there and thank you for the invite. I know that we talked about me potentially coming to Texas and
yeah.
doing a talk or
Please.
something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
This could do wonders for so many grown men, some of them SEALs, some of them CIA, some of them special operator, whatever, to speak into that, but they must be healthy. Like, you
Yeah.
can't bring that garbage in here. You know what I mean? Don't come
Yeah.
in here with the lie we all got. I'm going to Pennsylvania next month, talking about what is a hero. And I was just praying about it. I got a new idea. I hit up the guy's son. It's just, I've got such a skewed thing. Everything that pops to my mind initially has to be prayed about and said, that's actually wrong. All of this is
Hmm.
a lie. So
Sure.
what is that? So talking about that, yeah, I would imagine you must have those guys that don't bring the world's definition of hero
Yeah.
into model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to play a role. And then I understood sorry, I'm like tangent because I'm just spinning.
No. No.
In SEER school, I go to SEER school, and they do a great job of like speaking in this Russian accent and beating you and doing all this stuff. And you're kind of like, okay, I know it's a game, but after a while, it starts playing with your head. And at the end, upon graduation, they're like, "So, did you guys have a good experience?" I'm like, "Whoa, this is like a human being." Like, it's like they're not really
Yeah.
Russian. They're not.
Yeah.
They were serving a thing for me. They put me in a thing that was hard and cold, and you're in
Yep.
prison and blah blah
Yep.
blah. To just go through, but it was an investment into me.
Yeah.
So to have those people, there's something about pouring into other people that I think our veterans need. Like, I
Sure.
really
Yeah.
believe that
Yes.
they have lost their purpose, And that's
Yeah.
dangerous for action guys. Is it for action men and women? You cannot let them get bored.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot let them get, because they become dangerous in a bad way.
Yeah.
So do people come in? Do you have
Oh
people come
yeah.
in and
Yeah.
speak into your?
I was just gonna, double click on what you're talking about. As you watch these guys, you're talking about, oh, this guy's kind of ahead of me and he's better than me, and how did he get that way, right? Man, what we've experienced is whatever gets impressed upon you when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, is really, really important, right? And it's not a blank
Yes,
slate, right?
yes.
But it's really important. And it's often hard to annul, right? It's hard to get rid of, it's hard to erase. And so we take the responsibility when these guys come in very seriously and say, man, we could screw these guys up, right? Like if we
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this wrong, if we get this
yeah.
wrong, if we
Huge
impress the
responsibility.
wrong thing into them, that can last a lifetime. That can stay with a young guy for a very long time. And so making sure we get it right, right? And part of that you're saying, like the way guys are raised, and how their dads treat them, and if we learned anything, it's the just how important the father is in the role of a young man's life, right? Not that he can't get over it, maybe he has a bad dad or no dad, but the guys that have really good dads, right, come in at just a different level than the guys that maybe didn't have a
Mhm.
dad. And so we watch that and work with that. When it comes to using resources, we are obviously very open to what I'm going to call, subject matter experts, right? And so it's often alumni who will come in who are, prior military or law enforcement or
Sure.
whatever. But for sure, outside of that, the program was started by, these retired military guys, and and that's how they built the program, right? Was with their experience. And so we are more than open to bringing in these outside resources, whether it's to help instruct, whether it's to do a chapel, whether it's to do a class, or spend a week with our guys, or even just come go on a ruck with us, right, or come train with us. And because I think you're exactly right. Where men tend to lose their way is when they forget the fact that everything I've been given, the next step is not to necessarily keep going, though that's part of it. It's actually to turn around and give it to the guys coming in behind me. It's to
Yeah.
invest into
Amen.
the next generation, right? The guys coming in. It's not so that I can keep going. It's so that these guys can, and one day even surpass me, right? They can become better than me, right? Because I'm giving them a leg up that I never had. Because I'm letting
Yeah.
them in on the secret early, right? I didn't get it till
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
this age, and I'm bringing them in, sooner rather than later. So there's a tremendous amount of purpose found in whatever you have been given to giving it to the next, to the guys coming in behind you. So no, I would
Absolutely.
say the invitation is absolutely open. Obviously, we want the right kind of men, like you're saying, the right kind of, impression on these
Yeah.
guys, because they're so open, they're so, vulnerable, for lack of a better term. And we want to be careful with what's impressed upon them. We want to make sure we get that right. But as far as, bringing in veterans and bringing in resources, we love bringing in subject matter experts, men that are older, men that are wiser. We do that often in our chapel sessions or our instructing, because we're the guys that just keep the program running, right? We're the guys that keep
Yeah.
the wheels on the car, and if we can bring in people to help support that and make that even better, then absolutely we're open to that involvement.
That's fantastic. And we got a few minutes left, and I want to talk a little bit about, what do you guys need? Because as I revisit this for the second time, and I've done a little research on you guys, I'm just blown away that I didn't know about it. You know what I mean? So,
Sure. Yeah.
and quite honestly, is it for the listeners, and we'll promote this, and I happen to be in that 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy kind of world.
Yeah.
So the dads, I will be telling them about this, because dudes are popping in my mind that are professional firefighters. This guy's name's Paul, my brother Paul. He's just a giver, man. He's that dude that pours into other people's kids. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's go do the thing. Let's chop wood. Let's do all that kind of stuff. And to get those resources together, one, as people that may come and just share a Christian message with folks, as a person who does it full time. And we talked about this earlier in my other group. When you do something full time, you just learn different. Like if it's a hobby, that's one thing. But when you do something
Hmm.
full time for a career, you just learn so many ways not to do it every day that
Yeah.
you actually
Yep.
get quite good. And then I
Yeah.
invite people and I said, then why are you dabbling in ministry? Like everything you do, you should be in full-time ministry. Everything. Like
Sure.
this
Yeah.
conversation's ministry.
Yeah.
When I leave here and kiss my kids, it's ministry. It's ministry.
Yep.
And if you do it full time, you're going to get the other side of the Bible. I mean, you'd only get so much by reading it and teaching it.
Yeah.
The other half you have to live. You have to
You
live
got to go
it,
out and do it.
you
Yeah.
know?
100%.
And not perfectly, but increasingly. And then you get better, and all of a sudden you're like getting fulfilled. And I think that's something that what a great place to start people to say, like, everything I do is ministry, and I
Yeah.
actually bring skills. I'm not showing up with a hat in my hand. I'm gonna go
Yep.
stack woods with the kids. Man, I got some skills and I can help you. And
Yeah.
pretty soon they're going to be like, why don't we put that dude in charge?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, and now
100%.
they're actually
Yeah.
making it. So what in the form of support, what do you guys need? If it's awareness to where they can just learn more,
Yeah.
if they're like me, considering this for their young man, or if they're blessed and they just want to, donate into something that's really, really good. Because all my math says this is it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
back to that. Raising strong children, repairing broken men. Which one? Both simultaneously. We must do
Yeah.
both
100%.
simultaneously. But you guys have been on for 32 years, man. So
Yeah.
you're ahead of most. I wouldn't say recreate the wheel. I'd say support you guys.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. No, and I appreciate that, right? And there are kind of, I think it's five questions you have to ask, right? When it comes to like an organization or a business, right? And you say, okay, what's the problem you're trying to fix, right? And we say, okay,
Yeah,
we want to help young men, right? Is the problem getting better or getting worse, right? We think it's getting worse, right? Like
it is getting worse.
yeah,
Yeah,
just getting worse, right? And so is there a market for it? Well, yeah, right. Do we have a solution to that problem, right? We would say, yeah, we have a solution to that problem. And does the solution work? Right? Is it helpful? Does it actually fix the problem? Right? And we would say, yeah, right. As an alumnus, I would say, yeah, it helps fix that problem. Right? So the problem's out there. There is a problem we're trying to fix. It's getting worse out there. We have a solution to the problem, and then we believe that the solution actually works. And that's the, like you're saying, 32 years of faithfulness. We have the results. We see it happen where these guys change and grow and become better men because of it. Even years down the road, I get text messages from guys that came through 20 years ago, and they say, "Man, that 9 weeks at that academy or that 2 years I spent there, I still resort back to that training to this day." And so one of the things I would tell people is just pray for us. Right now that you know about us, right, we need a tremendous
yeah,
amount of
amen.
wisdom to get this right. The training we do is very high risk, and so we need safety, right? God forbid something, again, God's been very kind to us in 32 years, right? No major injuries and things, but obviously we're diving, 90 feet underwater. We're doing 120-foot cliff rescue. I mean, we're doing all sorts of stuff, right? That's very high risk with young men, right? And you put those things together, and that's a recipe for disaster. And so just making sure
Yeah,
we're safe, and so pray for us. Pray for God's wisdom, pray for safety. Number two, like you're saying, spread the word, right? We're out here in Texas, right? East Texas, 2 hours east of Dallas. We're open, gates are open 5 days a week. You can come do a tour if you want to. You can come hang out with us. You can come train with us, right? Spread the word, right? Let people know that we're out here and that our heart is for young men. Let people know that the Alert Academy exists. We're East Texas's best kept secret. That's not on purpose, right? Like you're saying, most people don't always, and it's not because we don't want to, right? We've
yeah.
spent tons of money out there trying to advertise and stuff. And so, yeah, spread the word. Let people know where we're around, alertacademy.com, right? And follow us and help us and spread the word. And then, yeah, three, if people do want to donate, support us, right? Whether it's in the donations for deployment, right, and help our disaster relief when we go out and redeploy, right, or it's to the scholarship fund. Many of the young men coming through don't have the resources, right? Or their parents don't have the resources, and because we're a private entity, right, we don't take government funding, right? Because we want to be able to do what we want to do. We don't want the government speaking into what we
That's
what we
right.
do, so we don't take any of that funding. Um, and so give to the men, right? Give to the scholarship fund and help more young men. We got a lot of guys coming from single family homes, right? Broken homes, single moms, that one income, and mom's got 3 kids and she's working all day, and there's just no way she's going to be able to afford the training here. And it's not even that it's that expensive, right? I mean, it's about $16,000 for a year of training, room and board. That's everything, right? That's uniforms, room and board. That's not terribly expensive. But some of these guys are coming from
Right.
really bad situations, and we want to help them. And so give your money to the guys, give it to the students, give it to the scholarship fund, help more young men come through so that we can reach even more young guys for the kingdom.
Man, that's awesome. So yeah, so thank you so much. So that I really I'm feeling called to just do more for you guys. So I will spread the word as best I can. We are trying to
Yeah,
get the social media presence. Unfortunately, I think that's the future, but I believe it to be a tool, just like right now we're on the Zoom platform. What a gift. Like it's horrible if you do bad because it's going to make your life a lot easier. But if you do good, it's going to make your life a lot easier to reach out to people.
amen.
So we we
Amen.
we we I know there's a lot of responsibility in that tool that you and I would both agree with. Tools are supposed to, make your work easier. So yeah, we will absolutely do that. Consider us a resource. Um, And I would say if you are watching this podcast, because I know, and you'll know if I'm talking to you, there are guys that are very blessed that are looking for something right now, and you feel that hole, you're worried about your kids and your grandkids, please go to alertacademy.com and just check it out. Pray about it. And I'll invite everybody. I call them my patriots. So my patriots, like pray for these guys. We love this country, and there's a bleed. There's a femoral bleed
Mhm.
right now. And when I see a solution, I get excited about it. And if that's not obvious, then it's like, right now, I'm super excited about this. And I will. Let me look at Texas schedule, and if I could come down there,
Yeah,
it at a minimum do a tour and check it out. Uh, but even potentially, speaking to these young men and encouraging them because I
100%.
love it and it's
100%.
fantastic.
That would be
Awesome.
awesome.
Do you mind if I close in prayer?
That would be awesome. I'd
Speaking of
love it.
prayer, yeah, Father God, thank you so much for this morning. Starting with my men's group that leads right into this conversation because it is kind of sometimes a little daunting on what's going on in a country that I absolutely love. But when I see solutions, it perks up. The Holy Spirit inside me is just rocking right now because we see something that's real, that's tangible, that will give those young men some kind of dignity, some kind of truth in their heart that they can build on for the rest of their lives. So I just pray, for Jesse, for all of his team, for this organization, for these young men. I just pray safety over them. What an amazing, dangerous, and self-controlled thing to do, and an amazing just head start on life. In my estimation, just from the short time looking into it, better than the world that's trying to attack them. So I just pray your hedge of protection around them and your strength in their bodies as they grow into the men that you designed them to be. So just bless them, go before us, Holy Spirit, guide them, protect them, and we trust you with this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Yes, so we'll send people your way. I will be in touch shortly. Give me a minute. We'll process this and we'll get it out there
Sounds great.
and I say introduce the world to Alert Academy.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
All right. For all you guys, thanks for joining us yet again. If you got any questions, hit me up. We have launched locally that Stronger Boy Way kit, just that little taste of getting communities together. But now that we know about this, I'm gonna process this, pray about it, and we're gonna lean into it. So if you got any questions, hit me up at the men's conferences or wherever, and we'll discuss what we're gonna do. Until we see you again, God bless each and every one of you. Love you guys. Take care of one another. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again for another episode. Please be sure to follow us and support us on all of the social media. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of that starts by visiting ableshepherd.com.